What's going on with this Ajax team? They're currently bottom of their league, 18th in the Eredivisie, and I mean, what is going on? They have got 3 games in hand, and they do play this Thursday, so they could get to mid-table. But I mean, it's the worst start in the club's history. So here's a video just me trying to explain and figure out myself what is going on with this Ajax squad. So let's get into it. Seems to be quite a few factors contributing to Ajax's demise at the moment. But from what I can tell, it seems to be at the heart with Sven Mislintat. He used to be the sporting director of Borussia Dortmund, and he helped Klopp build that Dortmund team, bringing in players like Aubameyang, Lewandowski, and players like that. And also, he was in charge of the Arsenal purchases until 2019. And he comes with big pedigree, but from what I've read, he is a very volatile character. I mean, he fell out of Thomas Tuchel in 2016 over Torres from Atletico Madrid, and apparently got banished from the inner circle, whatever you want to call it. But it seems like a not great relationship since he took over from Mark Overmars in 2022, because one, he has bought a Stuttgart left back called Souza, who apparently he owns part of the company that they used to purchase him from. So I think there was a bit of a corruption in that sense. But also, he seems to have sold a lot of their key players, not all due to his fault, because as they didn't finish in the Champions League spot last year, they lost a lot of revenue, and they've had to sell a lot of key players. Like, if you look this summer just gone, they sold Alvarez, they sold Kudus, they sold Timber, and then the season before that, they got rid of Lissandro Martinez and Anthony just to Man United. And it's a situation that seems to be building up, but with Mislintat at the head of it. I mean, just in this summer alone, Ajax have brought in £156 million, like I say, selling Kudus, Timbers, Alvarez, Bassi, and if you look at the players they brought in, I mean, people like Chuba Akpom, who, yes, he did have a great season at Middlesbrough last year, but he's by far, Champions League level, is he? Brought in players like Satalo from Zagreb for 20 million. I mean, he's not a household name, of course. And Carlos Forbes from the Man City under-21s, 14 million. And these are names that just aren't associated with Ajax. They normally bring in young, promising players, but they have those experienced players like Sebastian Haller, who they let go a few seasons ago. They built that Ten Hag team off Dusan Tadic and Hakim Ziyech and all these players. And it doesn't seem like this transfer window, it seems like a lot of unproven players that don't seem to have the ability to just take Ajax into the next era, really. But it all seems to be circling around this Sven Mislintat, because Ajax had a manager called Maurice Stein who has recently left. He didn't win his last 8 games out of 11 in charge, which obviously for an institution like Ajax is just not going to help. But according to a Dutch newspaper called De Telegraaf, Mislintat actually went into the change rooms apparently and threatened to sack the current manager in front of all the players, despite Stein not being president. And apparently this rubbed a lot of players the wrong way, as any team would. If you saw your manager getting slagged off by your sporting director, it's just not really going to go too well, really. And you're going to lose trust in him, and you're going to think there's some backstabbers about, and there's not a lot of trust in the organisation. And with all of this, and with, it seems like the poor recruitment, especially this summer, and obviously the poor results, the fans are completely turning on this Ajax team, because in September, in the final game, it had to be stopped twice because of just pyros being thrown onto the pitch. You've probably seen the videos on Twitter. The stadium got smashed up outside, and they had to bring riot police to disperse the crowd. And once the Ajax fans, because obviously they're going to be so demanding, because Ajax has expected excellent over the years. They brought the historic players like Ruud Gullit and Van Basten through. But in modern history, they've still done well. They got to Champions League semi-final. Ten Hag did excellent there, and before last season, they won 2 titles in a row. So it's a case. It's not an unrealistic expectation for the Ajax fans to, obviously not want the team to be bottom of the league. But it's not just Mislintat who, as we speak, he did get sacked last September, after Ajax did say they mutually agreed for him to leave the club, but then shortly after took that statement down, which looks like he did get sacked. It's someone like Jan van Haus, who is on the board at the club, and the fans are protesting this current board as the game that just got stopped last month, because from what I've read on The Athletic, they've said it seems like everyone's in charge of the club, but no one is at the same time, which just means there's so much dismay in the higher ups feeding to the bottom down, and it's just a recipe for disaster for the club as we can see at the moment. But someone like Van Gaal, who only gave administrative experience at FC20, being hired at the club, I mean, it's been described as a bit of an identity crisis, because it's not really the star caliber that you need on your board, you know, the experience, just the knowledge of the football for someone like Ajax, and I think that's just, with everything else, just added to the issues. Seems like the quick fix at the moment is coming through Ajax's former players and legends, because Edwin van der Sar was at the club, but he suffered a brain hemorrhage, so he has stepped down as role as CEO of Ajax. Obviously, Mark Overmars was sporting director, yet he had his problems with people in the club and didn't act too well, so he got sacked. But I think people have seen those two as a bit of a miss for Ajax, because they work so well together. They brought in some shrewd signings, and you know, they probably had the best interest of the club because they've been there for so long. And it seems like players like Van Basten and Van der Vaart are speaking outwardly about Ajax, with Van Basten saying it's turned more into Amsterdam FC, and Van der Vaart calling for someone like Louis van Gaal to come back to the club to try and bring it back to its, you know, former glory days. And it just seems a situation that the public image of Ajax is going down. It doesn't look like there's too many competent or too many people who have the best interest in heart for Ajax, which is a shame, because it's such a, you know, it's a fantastic club. It's one of everyone's most, you know, favoured clubs in the world. But due to this identity crisis and losing people like Van der Sar and Mark Overmars, who did have the best clubs, you know, the interest at heart, they've launched a 2-year talent programme in which former players spend time working in departments ranging from commercial to legal, as well as media. This all from The Athletic, by the way. And the first group of former players to participate in the programme were Sim de Jong, Daniel de Ridder, Ricardo van Rijn and Kelly Zeman, which it's a start, and it's hopefully bringing things back in the right direction for them, and having people who do care about the club and not incompetent people. But I think it's partly that, and I think it's partly, just like I said, the recruitment that they brought in. Obviously, Sven Mislintat, didn't work out, a bit too volatile, and obviously it's like corruption things with buying that Sosa from Stuttgart didn't help. But bringing in players like, not to slag him off, but Chuba Akpom, I like him, I think he's a really good championship player. But when you've had Seb Haller a couple of years ago, and you're taking it to Chuba Akpom, it's chalk and cheese, really. And when you lose someone like Alvarez, who we've seen fantastic in the West Ham midfield, Timber, who unfortunately got injured for Arsenal but looked very good in pre-season, Mohamed Kudus for West Ham, you're just losing so many of these top players, and you need the Champions League to get the revenue back in so you can buy better players. However, with this current crop of players who they spent 150 million plus this summer, it's just not really going to work, is it? And unfortunately, they're not doing too well in the Europa League either, so it's not like they can use that as an avenue to get through. So it looks like there are a bit of crossroads at the moment, but I really like Ajax. I hope they get back into it. Say if they win the next 3 games, the mid-table, and they could get back into the top 3 and potentially challenge for the title. It's a long season, but from what I've read at the moment, it doesn't look too good, and it doesn't just look like it's on the field, it looks like it's off the field and the higher ups, and it looks like they're going in the right direction, but who knows. But thanks for watching. If you could like the video, that'd be great. If you're new to the channel, if you want to subscribe, that'd be fantastic. If you're an Ajax fan, maybe, if you could tell me more about your club and what's going on at the moment, because, like I say, I only know what I've been reading. But yeah, if you can comment anyway, if you can tell me what you think of the club and how they're doing at the moment. But thanks for watching.